All right, welcome back to your Daily Read Aloud, The Wild Robot. Today we are getting into, chapter 18. Remember, these chapters go fast because they're short. Who can tell me I don't want a whole summary of the whole book, but what happened last time that Roz learned from looking at a walking stick? What did she learn? Madeline?
To try to blend in.
Okay. Now, she looked at that walking stick and she's like, well, I can't look like a twig, naturally, right? I'm a robot. So what did she try to disguise herself as? Emma?
A rock.
Okay, she disguised herself as a rock. What's another thing? Cadence?
A tree.
Okay, a tree. She put mud all over her and filled it with ferns and flowers and looked ridiculous. There's one more good one that she did, by the water. Does anyone remember? Abby?
Wasn't it like something?
It was some sort of a plant from the sea.
Oh, seaweed.
She was a big pile of seaweed, okay? And she would lay in that spot for a few days, and then she'd probably get bored and go find a new spot to sit and camouflage. So, we are ready for chapter 18, and it is called The Camouflaged Robot. Oh, we just read that chapter. I must have put it in the wrong spot. Okay, chapter 19, The Observations. Okay, so here's what she's noticing while she's sitting still. Clouds scudded through the sky. Spiders spun intricate webs. Berries beckoned to hungry mouths. Foxes stalked hares. Uh-oh. Like, hares are rabbits, right? Not your teacher. Mushrooms rose up from leaf litter. Turtles plopped into ponds. Moss spread across tree roots. Vultures hunched over carcasses. Ocean waves beat against the coastline. Tadpoles became frogs. Caterpillars became butterflies. A camouflaged robot observed it all. Chapter 20, The Language of the Animals. All right, so far, is Roz able to communicate with anyone else on the island?
No.
Noah?
No.
No, remember she'll go, otters, I do not understand a word you're saying. So, we'll learn more about how they can try to communicate. It started with the birds. They had always been skittish when the robot was near. They would stare and screech and scatter. But now that Roz was camouflaged, she could secretly observe their normal behavior right up close. Roz noticed chickadees fluttering through the same flowers and singing the same song every morning. She noticed a lark who swooped down to the same rock and sang the same song every afternoon. She noticed the same two magpies singing to each other from across the same meadow every evening. After weeks of robotically studying the birds, Roz knew what each bird would sing and when they would sing and eventually why they would sing. The robot was beginning to understand the birds. But she was also beginning to understand the porcupines and the salamanders and the beetles. She discovered that all the different animals shared one common language. They just spoke the language in different ways. You might say each species spoke with its own unique accent. When Roz first listened to the chickadees, their songs had sounded like twee tweedle, twee tweedle. But now when the chickadees sang, Roz heard, oh, what a lovely day it is. Oh, what a lovely day it is. Hudson?
When you said that she understood the beetles, what about if the bug beetles, like the beetle, they actually sang the Beatles song?
That'd be pretty ridiculous. Okay. Deer spoke mostly with their bodies. By simply turning her head, a doe could say to her family, let's look for clovers by the stream. Snakes often hissed to themselves, things like, I know there's a tasty mouse here somewhere. Bees said very little. They used their wings to buzz a few simple words like nectar and sun and hive. Frogs spent much of their time searching for each other. One would croak, where are you? I can't see you. And then another would reply, I'm over here. Follow my voice. When Roz first stomped across the island, the animal squawks and growls and chirps had sounded like nothing more than meaningless noise. But she no longer heard animal noises. Now she heard animal words. Chapter 21, The Introduction. There was an hour each morning in the dim light of dawn when all the island animals were safe. You see, long ago, they had all agreed not to hunt or harm one another during that hour. They called it the Dawn Truce. Most mornings, the island residents would gather in the great meadow and spend the hour chatting with friends. Of course, not everyone attended these gatherings. The bears had never made an appearance, and the vultures just circled high above. But on this particular morning, an unusually large group of animals had come out to discuss some important news. "Settle down, everyone. I have something to say." Swooper the owl hooted to the crowd from the lowest branch of a dead tree. All right, so that's our next character, right? The owl's name is Swooper. All right, lost my spot. Okay, so Swooper says, "Last night, I saw a mysterious creature right here in the Great Meadow. It seemed to be covered in grass, so I couldn't get a good look at it, but I think it may have been a monster." Looks of concern swept over the crowd. "Well, what was the creature doing?" said Dart the Weasel. "It was speaking," said Swooper. "It kept repeating the same words over and over again, but each time it sounded a little different. At first it sounded like a cricket, and then it sounded like a raccoon, and then it sounded like an owl." "Well, what was it saying?" said Dig Down the groundhog. Okay, so Swooper's our owl. Dig Down is our groundhog. Angie?
They saw her.
They did. And she's out there. Do you think she's just practicing saying all the things the animals say?
Yep.
Just kind of talking to herself? But Swooper heard her, so he's now explaining to them, there's a monster sitting in the middle of the meadow just like repeating all of our sounds. Wouldn't that be a little weird? Okay. Sounded like an owl. "What was it saying?" said Dig Down the groundhog. "I could be mistaken," said Swooper, "but I think it was saying, 'Hello, my name is Roz.'" The crowd began to chatter. "Just where was this creature?" said Fink the fox. Everyone turned as the owl slowly pointed his wing to a grassy lump in the meadow. It was a rather ordinarily looking grassy lump, until it began to move. As you probably guessed, the grassy lump was Roz. She had been there the whole time, camouflaged, watching, listening, and with all the animals looking at her, she decided to introduce herself. The crowd stared in disbelief as the grassy lump started shaking and bulging upward and crumbling apart. And there was the robot. Then, using her body and voice, the robot spoke to the animals in their own language. "Hello, my name is Roz." The crowd gasped. "Swooper." All right, who's Swooper? What animal? Abby? Owl. Swooper fluttered up from his branch and screeched, "It's the monster!" "I am not a monster," said Roz. "I am a robot." A flock of sparrows suddenly took off. "Leave us alone," squeaked Dart as he crouched low in the grass. "Return to whatever horrible place you've come from." "I come from here," said Roz. "I've spent my whole life on this island." Okay, now why does she think that's true? Emma?
Because that's where she woke up.
Yeah, that's where she woke up and was turned on. So she has no memory of any time before that. "Why haven't you spoken to us sooner?" screeched the owl from higher up in the tree. "I did not know the animal languages until now," said the robot. Crown Point, the buck, so that's a deer with antlers, male deer, Crown Point, had heard enough, and he slipped into the forest with his family. "So what do you want from us?" growled Fink. Remember, Fink is the fox. "I have observed that different animals have different ways of surviving," said the robot. "I would like each of you to teach me your survival techniques." "I'm not going to help you," screeched the owl from the very top of the tree. "You seem so unnatural." "The monster is just waiting to gobble us up," shrieked Dig Down, and the groundhog disappeared into a hole. "I will not gobble anyone up," said Roz. "I have no need for food." "You don't need food?" Fink relaxed a bit. "Well, I need food and lots of it. Why don't you make yourself useful and find me some food?" "What would you like me to do?" said Roz. "Can you hunt?" The fox smiled at the hare on the far side of the gathering. It's almost time for breakfast. "I cannot hunt, but I could gather berries." So why can't Roz hunt? Noah?
Her system doesn't let her hurt people.
Yeah, she can't be violent in any way. The fox's smile disappeared. "Berries? I'm hungry for meat, not berries. Good luck to you, Roz. You're going to need it." and the fox trotted away. Roz looked up at the tree, but the owl had gone. And when the robot looked down again, she realized that everyone else had gone too. Chapter 22, The New Word. A new word was spreading across the island. The word was Roz. Everyone was talking about the robot, and they wanted nothing to do with her. I don't think I'll ever feel comfortable knowing that Roz is on the prowl. I hope Roz camouflages herself as a rock, forever. Shh! There's Roz now. Let's get out of here. Roz wandered the island, covered in dirt and green growing things, and everywhere she went she heard unfriendly words. The words would have made most creatures quite sad, but as you know, robots don't feel emotions, and in these moments that was probably for the best. Chapter 23, The Wounded Fox. My face! My beautiful face! Somebody help! Fink the fox was lying on a log, howling in pain, with a face full of long, sharp quills when Roz appeared. Isn't there anybody else who can help? Would you like me to leave? Said the robot. No, please don't go. I'll take what I can get. What happened? I think that porcupine could see me in the bushes, but when I went in for his throat, suddenly there were quills in my face. Why did you go for his throat? Why do you think? Because I was hungry. If you had not attacked that porcupine, you would not have quills in your face. Yes, Roz, I know that. But a fox has got to eat. I just didn't expect him to put up such a good fight. Look, there are even quills on my paws. I can't walk. My face is numb. I could die if you don't help me. What would you like me to do? Said the robot. I'd like you to pull out the quills. Roz calmly knelt beside Fink and said, I will pull out the quills. The robot started to tug on a quill, but it snapped off in her fingers. Fink yelped and said, pinch it close to the skin. So Roz pinched the broken quill closer to the skin, and then very slowly she pulled it out. The fox winced in pain and said through his teeth, Please, Roz, pull them out faster. This is agony. Roz quickly tugged out another quill, then another, and another. The fox lay perfectly still, eyes closed tightly, wind whistling through his nose, until every single quill had been removed and placed in a neat pile beside him. Fink struggled to his feet. Thanks, Roz. I owe you one. The fox smiled briefly, and then he limped away. Chapter 24, The Accident. As Roz wandered through springtime, she saw all the different ways the animals entered the world. She saw birds guarding their eggs like treasures until the chicks finally hatched. She saw deer give birth to fawns who were up and running in a matter of minutes. Many newborns were greeted by loving families. Some were on their own from their very first breath. And, as you're about to find out, a few poor goslings would never even get a chance to hatch. Roz was climbing down from one of the forest cliffs when the accident happened. The wind started blowing out of the north, and suddenly clouds were rushing over the island. With the clouds came a spring shower, a downpour actually. And there was our robot, clamping her hands onto a wet block of stone on the side of a cliff. But the block couldn't handle the extra weight. And as the heavy robot hung there, cracks suddenly shot through the stone and it started breaking apart. Down went the robot, plummeting into the treetops below. She crashed through branch after branch before finally hooking an arm around one. Then she dangled there, gently swinging as rocks roared past her on their way to the forest floor. When the dust settled, Roz shimmied down the tree trunk. The ground was littered with broken rocks and splintered wood and pulverized shrubs. And within all that rubble was a goose nest that had been torn to shreds. 2 dead geese and 4 smashed eggs lay among the carnage. The robot stared at them with her softly glowing eyes, and something clicked deep inside her computer brain. Roz realized she had caused the deaths of an entire family of geese. All right, now we know Roz can't really feel feelings because she's a robot. But if we could describe maybe what Roz might be thinking, what do you think she thinks about what she did? Cadence?
That was violence, kind of.
Was it violence on accident?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's maybe wondering, how was I even responsible for that? Eric?
Sad.
Yeah, the best that she can feel. She's probably feeling sad or wishing she could take back what happened, right?
How did she
Emma?
feel then? Something like sad because they keep saying she keeps feeling something like
Something like it, right? So, can someone tell Angie, how did she end up killing the geese and their babies in the nest? Josiah?
Rise was going up a hill and she fell and on top of the eggs and the mother. Yeah, she killed the mother.
Yeah. So, both of the parents were there. Both of them have been killed. And she's found 4 smashed eggs. So, she's feeling something like sadness. All right, then this will be our last chapter for the day, I believe. Yes. Chapter 25 is called The Egg. And this is really where our story picks up the pace. Okay? Everyone listen. As Roz stood in the rain, staring down at those poor lifeless geese, her sensitive ears detected a faint peeping sound coming from somewhere nearby. She followed the peeps over to a clump of wet leaves on the ground, and when she peeled back the leaves, she discovered a single, perfect goose egg sunk in the mud. "Mama! Mama!" peeped a tiny, muffled voice from within the egg. The robot gently cradled the fragile thing in her hand. Without a family, the unhatched gosling inside would surely die. Roz knew that some animals had to die for others to live. That is how the wilderness worked. But would she allow her accident to cause the death of yet another gosling? After a moment, the robot started to walk. Carefully holding the egg, she moved through the forest and away from that sad scene. But she didn't get far before Fink burst out from the bushes. "What happened?" the fox panted. "The whole forest was shaking." "There was an accident," said the robot. "I was climbing those cliffs when the rocks started to fall." "Well, you should be more careful," said Fink as he checked out the robot's new scrapes and dents. "I'll need your help if I ever have more porcupine trouble." "I will be more careful." And what do we have here?" said Fink, looking up at Roz's hands. "A goose egg." "Ooh, I love eggs. Can I eat it?" "No." "Please?" "No." "Why do you want it?" the fox scowled. "I thought you didn't even eat food." "You may not have this egg, Fink." The fox sighed. He scratched his chin, and then he started sniffing the breeze. His nose had found the scent of the dead geese. "You can keep your egg," he said as he trotted toward the cliffs. "I smell something better." So we know, wilderness can be sad, but when most animals die, does some other animal use it? Yep. So Fink is going to go make a meal out of that. The robot walked on through the misty forest for a long time until she was standing beneath a sprawling oak tree. Roz placed the egg on a pad of moss. Then she snatched grass and twigs from the ground and delicately wove them together to make a little nest. She placed the egg inside the nest, placed the nest on her flat shoulder, and climbed up into the branches. Okay, we will stop reading there today. All right, now, Josiah, you may not predict, just because he's read the book Friends at Home. Anybody else, what's going to happen with this egg? What do you think Roz's plan might be? Eric?
He's gonna try to find a family that will adopt it.
Okay.
Or he will take care of it himself.
Okay. So he's saying either Roz is going to take care of it herself or find someone else who can. Madeline?
I think that she's gonna take care of it, or she's gonna put it into another bird's nest.
Okay. Maybe you could sneak it in and another goose wouldn't know. Cadence, what do you think?
I think she's gonna take care of it.
Okay. Emma?
I think she's gonna make the nest for it.
Okay. Noah?
I feel like this is gonna be. I'm thinking it's gonna be like My Side of the Mountain when we read the prehab of how on My Side of the Mountain he grew up. What was the falcon's name?
Frightful?
Frightful, and then they got taken away from him. I think he's gonna grow up a chick, and then something's gonna happen, and she's gonna go.
Okay.
She's gonna fly.
All right. Well, you guys have a lot of good predictions. I'll tell you, a lot of you are on the right track. So we will get back into our story tomorrow. Thank you all for joining me. I will see you soon.